Greetings and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. Today's episode is about Dreamwork. The entity known as Ra said that dreaming is an act of communication through the veil between our conscious and unconscious mind, between space-time and time-space. They also noted that dreaming can help us unblock or balance energy centers in order to help us polarize more purely on the path we have chosen between service to others or service to self. How can working with dreams help us in our spiritual growth and development? How can lucid dreaming help us do advanced work in consciousness? And which is more real, our dreams or so-called reality? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group, and we meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or Zoom sessions. Anybody who's interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week with Zoom links and information on what we're talking about that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous podcast episodes, as well as recordings of our monthly Q&As with Jim McCarty. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications when we upload new episodes, and contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to join us for any of our Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty. As mentioned, our topic today is Dreamwork. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, go ahead, let our viewers know who you are and where you're calling from, starting with Ken.
Hello, my name is Ken Wendt. Today I'm calling from Sandusky, Ohio, but I live, further east, south of Cleveland, for those of you who are not Ohio natives, but, the locals get really snobby with the accuracy of, because like if you say Cleveland and you're like, and you live in Medina suburb, they're like, you're not from Cleveland, get out of here. But
as all Ohioans are known to be snobs, yes. So great to have you on, Ken. It's about time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And Peggy?
Be cautious. I'm a fellow Ohioan.
I'm in trouble with Ohio already.
It's in the air. Okay, so my name is Peggy Lester. I currently live in Turner Station, Kentucky, y'all. So this is a new place for my husband and I, and we are loving it. And I'm glad to be here. No expert on dreams, but I love to document my dreams and see what they tell me.
So great to have you back on the panel. And Todd?
Yeah, hello everyone. You might see me before here. So I'm in Sweden, located in Sweden. And yeah, I think in some of the other podcasts we have talking about briefly about dream. And I really enjoy that. I think that is one of my hobbies, if you can call it a hobby. So I'm very happy to be here and to join these different sessions, and also to be with you three guys. Thank you so much.
We are so happy to have you back. And I'm embarrassed to say I'm the only one of the people here who do not keep a dream journal. So really excited to hear everybody's experiences. Did remind our viewers that none of us here are experts on the Law of One or on dream work. We are just more or less normal people like you, just having a conversation about spiritual things that seem important to us. Anything that we say could be wrong. You're welcome to disagree with anything or everything that any of us say. If you are already familiar with the Law of One and the entity known as Quo, you might want to skip ahead to the chapter on what is dreaming. Otherwise, for those who are new to the Law of One, you can think of it as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one and that one thing is love. All of the reading passages that we're looking at today came to us through the process known as channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, inner planes beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, etc. A channel basically serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through. And in this case, those entities would appear to be of extraterrestrial origin. There are two types of channeling that have been developed by our friends at L&L Research. Trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state, meaning they are subconscious or unconscious, as if asleep, meaning they have no idea what words are coming out of their mouths as they are speaking them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Ra back in the early 1980s. Conscious channeling is when the channel is in a conscious but deep meditative state, meaning they are only somewhat aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Quo, starting in the mid-1980s up to present day. Who is Quo? You can think of Quo as a group entity made up of 3 social memory complexes: Ra at 6th density, Latui at 5th density, Hatan at 4th density. You can think of a social memory complex as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. You can think of densities or dimensions as different levels of consciousness or different levels of reality, since those two things are so closely intertwined. Imagine, if you will, that the elements of earth, fire, water, and air have some form of consciousness, as many indigenous peoples have for centuries been saying they do. We call that first density. You can think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants and animals. Clearly a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of what we would refer to as inanimate matter. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans like whales and dolphins. Again, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of plants and other animals. You can think of fourth density as the level of consciousness of the social memory complex, as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. Clearly a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of an individual person. You can think of fifth and sixth density as whatever would be comparable quantum leaps above and beyond the consciousness of fourth density. There is obviously a lot more we could say about that. And if you're interested, check out our podcast episode on densities and dimensions. Otherwise, for now, suffice it to say, the entity known as Quo appears to be a group entity made up of 3 planetary consciousnesses: Ra at 6th density, Latui at 5th density, Hatan at 4th density. First contact with Quo was made by the LNL research channeling team in 1986, almost 2 years after the end of the Ra contact in 1984, and they've been channeled every month since then, up to the present day, by the LNL research channeling team. You can find transcripts of all those channeling sessions in the LNL conscious channeling library shown on your screen. Having said all that, let's take a look at the question of what is dreaming? In the Ra contact, session 86, question 7, Ra said, "Dreaming is an activity of communication through the veil of the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. The nature of this activity is wholly dependent upon the situation regarding the energy center blockages, activations, and crystallizations of a given mind-body-spirit complex. And one who is blocked at 2 of the 3 lower energy centers, dreaming will be of value in the polarization process, and that there will be a repetition of those portions of recent catalyst as well as deeper held blockages, thereby giving the waking mind clues as to the nature of these blockages and hints as to possible changes in perception which may lead to the unblocking. This type of dreaming or communication through the veiled portions of the mind occurs also with those mind-body-spirit complexes which are functioning with far less blockage and enjoying the green ray activation or higher activation at those times at which the mind-body-spirit complexes experience catalyst, momentarily reblocking or baffling or otherwise distorting the flow of energy influx. Therefore, in all cases, it is useful to a mind-body-spirit complex to ponder the content and emotive resonance of dreams. For folks who are new to the law of one, mind-body-spirit complex is how the entities known as Ra and Quo refer to people. That is how you know you're speaking with an extraterrestrial. Because who the hell else refers to a person as a mind-body-spirit complex? But apparently, to our friends in the Confederation, a person is a complex of a mind and a body and a spirit. And with that, I'll pass it to the panel. Panelists, what do you think? Ken, any thoughts, reflections on anything from this passage?
Yeah, there's, well, before we get to the passage, I think there was even one quote about the idea of a social memory complex in a person. I think it's in Ra where they talk about like all that goes into the beingness of one person, and then they end the quote by saying like, this is like what you so carelessly refer to as a person. And that's why they like place this emphasis on like all of the universes in you as a social memory complex, you know. And then we're just like, yeah, just some guy on the street.
Some rando. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
But the first thing that comes to mind is the first paragraph focusing on that it is going to be unique to every individual, and so that it's dependent on what is happening with you as an individual. And then they kind of come back to that at the end and say, in all cases, it's useful for the person, mind, body, spirit complex, to ponder the content and emotive resonance of the dreams, which the emotive resonance will be unique to each individual. And oftentimes when you're recalling, and we could talk about this later when we get into that part of it, when you're recalling the dream, it is almost more important to remember how you felt about what was happening than what actually was happening. And I think that's what they're hinting at with that little nugget they give us at the end of kind of focusing on that emotive resonance that kind of hangs on.
That's an interesting point I had not thought of, so I really appreciate your sharing that. Peggy, any thoughts, anything to add?
Yeah, so, when you're speaking about that emotive resonance of the dream, that is probably the piece where I don't pay enough attention to it. So when I was going back through my dream journals, I'm realizing, I write down the content of the dream. Sometimes I'll write the emotion, but the emotion gets lost for me as I'm either writing it or I'm not. I don't know what that is, whether I just am not feeling it when I am waking up and writing it down, or whether that's a blockage for me. So that's been that was a very interesting piece for me because it really struck a chord. So that was
Can I ask a clarifying question, Peggy?
Sure.
When you say you struggle with that, do you mean that like when you're actually in the state of recording the dream, you have difficulty recalling what the emotional vibe was in the dream?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So, and I'm not even sure. And so I think if I can't bring it up as I'm recording it, then am I not getting that piece of it even in the dream? I don't know,
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where I think, the blockages that we have, in our chakras are likely part of that for me. So that was a really good passage for me to kind of look at that emotional piece in the dreams. So yeah, I really liked that.
That's interesting. How about for you, Ken? When you record your dreams, do you record the emotional content of it as well?
Yeah, as more so, the more recently I've been doing it, the more I will include that. So I'll say, this is the action that happened, these things took place, and then I'll say like it felt like this, or it had a feeling of this, or it had a vibe of this, because if in the dream there is a creature outside of your house walking around, like it could be terrifying or it could be really inspiring, and you want to go see more of it, so
Right.
that context is important in the interpretation and for that emotive resonance, as they call it.
Super interesting. I remember somebody said, I think it might have been Maya Angelou, but I am probably wrong on that, said something to the effect that you won't remember what people said, but you'll remember how they made you feel. Mm-hmm. Which I think is really, it's definitely true when I think of talks that I've been to or shows or movies that I've watched. I might often forget like specific details, but I remember how it made me feel, if I enjoyed it or not.
Yeah, there was Jill Bolte Taylor was the author of this My Stroke of Insight, and she was a physician who helped people go through strokes who then experienced a stroke. And she talked about afterwards, during the recovery period, when people would come in to visit, she like was in a state where she was more able to feel their presence and intention than like their physical presence. And so like afterwards, she was so grateful for these people, and she had like kind of a new appreciation for just the presence of someone. And I think that's kind of like a testament to the same experience in another, avenue.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate that. Todd, did you have anything to add? Any thoughts, reflections on anything from this passage?
I might go a little bit in a different way because in reality, I didn't actually know that it was possible to unlock these energy centers while dreaming in some way. As long as we can see there the information reflected in dreams, for me, this is new first because I haven't read the whole sessions. Like for me, take the session is really doing like calm and not read the book just because, oh, I'm going to read a new book. It's just like I really live the sessions. So I haven't go through it. But yeah, so until the end, And second, because it's interesting to see that indeed the first three energy centers, as the passage says here, are the ones most related, at least to our experience right now as, living in this planet and just to live here on. So I think it's quite fitting. And of course, as long as we keep our hearts open and we are willing to contribute to our own process, because one thing is that catalysts appear and another thing is whether we accept them or not. Mm-hmm. And then, like they keep repeating over and over, like this catalyst. But this idea that situations that are reflected through dreams has always been clear to me, maybe because it's the medium I choose. I don't know, I still thinking that they might be more mediums, but I enjoy dreaming. And there are those who dream while asleep, or those who dream while awake, like the dreamers, and each other people has their own ability and their own way. Sometimes we even tend to focus on dream interpretation based on other people's experiences. But that's something that each person must discern by themselves. Ultimately, it's a personal choice, like dreaming is something you just choose. Because interpretation, I think, is merely personal. And sadly, we have got used to seek other opinions. But yes, I think it's super personal, and it's up to you if you want to unblock or blog or see more or see less.
For sure. I should mention, since we've been talking a fair bit about energy centers and they come up a lot in this passage, for our viewers who are not familiar with energy centers as they're described in the Law of One, they are very much like chakras in the Hindu tradition. So both in the Law of One and in Hindu traditions, it is understood that prana, as it's referred to in Hinduism, chi, as it's referred to in Taoism, intelligent energy or love light, as is referred to in the Law of One, or the Force, as it's referred to in Star Wars, flows through everything, and it flows up through planet Earth into our energy bodies through the red ray, also known as root chakra, which deals with survival, sexual reproduction, fundamental vitality. From the air, the energy goes up to the orange ray, or sacral chakra, which deals with personal identity or our relationships with other individual selves. From there, the energy goes up into the yellow ray, or solar plexus chakra, which deals with group identity, our relationships with groups of other selves. And then from there, energy goes up to the green ray, which deals with universal, unconditional love, and is the springboard to the higher chakras. From there, energy goes up to the blue ray, or throat chakra, which deals with wisdom, honesty, truth, clarity, how we communicate oneness from creator to creator. From there, energy goes up to the indigo ray, or third eye chakra, which is referred to as the gateway to intelligent infinity, the center of the adept of magical workings, or what in the Law of One is referred to as working consciousness. From there, energy goes up to the violet ray, or the crown chakra, which is kind of the sum or energetic signature of self, reflecting our overall balance, and it's where energy goes out the energy body. So as they're talking about in this passage, if you have blockage in the lower energy centers, it might have to do with issues with survival, sexuality, or with your relationship with individual other selves, or relationships with groups of other selves. So blocking that energy prevents the free flow of energy up into your green ray, which makes it a lot harder to open it up to the energy that's needed to do the work on the higher levels. There is more to it than that, and if you're interested, check out our podcast episode on chakras and energy centers. Otherwise, yeah, I'm curious. Panelists, do you guys have experience? Do you do a lot of work with energy centers? It's something that was new to me until I learned about the law of one only like 5 years ago. And I didn't know anything about energy centers before that. But it's been a huge help for me for sure. Peggy, do you do any work with energy centers or stuff?
I do, yes, and have for many years, doing some work with some yogis in the past. So, and just doing those meditations that pull the energy up and through, and keep that energy center moving. Doing meditations along those lines. I love feeling the energy movement when I'm out walking in nature. That's another space where I really feel energy movement. And I'm just going to throw out another question that kind of just came to me as you were showing that slide. I don't dream much in color, and I don't know if Ken or Tat do, but I wonder if you've ever been able to correlate, if you do dream in color, is there any correlation with those colors and the energy centers? I suspect there probably is, right? But I'm not one to dream in color, so.
Oh, interesting. What do you think, Ken?
For me, absolutely. But I don't know how much we want to talk about this now or like save for later, but yeah, so like I will dream in color, but I also think because of the nature of dreams being unique to each individual, I think we have a lot more agency in assisting our guides and helpers with our intention, and kind of we don't have to wait and say like, what does this symbol mean? I think we can say, I would like these symbols to refer to these types of things, and actually assist with the creation of those definitions. So then in the dream, if like I'm talking to Jonathan and he shows up wearing a bright blue Hawaiian shirt, then that signals to me like, oh, okay, this is like a Blu-ray issue, because what I remembered when I wrote down the dream was that Jonathan had on this giant blue shirt. And then how did I feel when I was talking to Jonathan? Was I like self-conscious that I didn't have a blue shirt? And then maybe that means like, oh, I am self-conscious about speaking my truth, or something like that,
Wow.
So I would say that like for me, in my experience, color has been like super helpful in doing that. But if you don't dream in color, it doesn't mean you can't do that. You just pick another thing that you do dream a lot about and assign, your definitions accordingly there.
I would think that goes back to what you were saying about it's really very personal for each person. And certainly if somebody doesn't really deal much with energy centers, then I kind of doubt the colors would have like meaning in terms of energy centers. But I would think certainly, I mean, if you're dreaming about having an argument with a family member or a spouse or something, then that probably would indicate some blockage in orange ray, since that kind of deals with our relationships with individuals. Or if you have a dream about, a work situation or coworkers or something, then that maybe could be a blockage of yellow ray, your relationships with groups of other entities. I don't know. What do you think? Todd, do you do much work with energy centers in or out of dreams?
Not at all, because I think some people nowadays tell me I'm really bad with energy centers. For me, that's something I had really go to comprehend how it works. Like even the chakra tuning and wear this to help your heart to be better. I do not work in that way, but though I do dream in color, and for me colors are very important. I never like have a relation with colors and chakra points. For me, like the energy centers are more like a feeling, like I have a feeling up or down. It's more a feeling for me. It's not the color in the dreams at all. But yeah, I do dream in color, and sometimes I work with colors, but not because of, again, not because based on the chakras, but more because on the emotions they represent for me. So you might also have been, I don't know if you know this or not, I do like to wear clear and light colors. I avoid to wear black clothes or like patterns and these kind of congested things. I don't even wear stamps things, or try to avoid them, because for me that clutter my energy. So the clearer I get and the simpler it is, for me it's easier to go through each situation and also to present myself to the others. So, it's your presentation phase. So that's how I work with.
Nice. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I would definitely agree. People have favorite colors or colors that have special meanings to them, and would not be surprised if that comes through in dreams too. We spent a good solid 25 minutes talking about the first passage. Why don't we go ahead and move on? I've got another passage on the same topic. Did want to remind viewers, though, that energy centers, chakras, are talked about a lot in channeling sessions, and I think most people would agree it is a really important, helpful part of spiritual growth. So definitely encourage you to check out our podcast episode if you want to learn more about that. Otherwise, in a session 86, question 12, Ross said, the activity of dreaming is an activity in which there is made a finely wrought and excellently fashioned bridge from conscious to unconscious. In this state, the various distortions which have occurred in the energy web of the body complex due to the misprecision with which energy influxes have been received are healed. With the proper amount of dreaming comes the healing of these distortions. Continued lack of this possibility can cause seriously distorted mind-body-spirit complexes. The other function of the dreaming, which is of aid, is that type of dream which is visionary and which prophets and mystics have experienced from days of old. Their visions come through the roots of mind and speak to a hungry world. Thus, the dream is of service without being of personally polarizing nature. However, in that mystic or prophet who desires to serve, such service will increase the entity's polarity. Really fascinating. And as I was reading that second paragraph, I was reminded of Edgar Cayce, I believe, who was known as the sleeping prophet, because oftentimes what came to him, as I believe he was channeling his higher self, came to him in dreams, and a lot of what he shared with folks he worked with came through dreams, which are super cool. Peggy, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, this one's fascinating to me because as a person who's been dealing with chronic illness, one of the things, an integrative doc who's actually part of the LL research group, one of his first questions to me when I saw him was, do you dream? And because he said, if you don't, we need to be activating that, because dreaming is essential to the healing of our bodies. And so, and I'd never thought about it in that sense. And I will say that probably for a number of years in my life, when I've been too busy, I was not dreaming, or at least not holding on to them. So that was really, really fascinating. And just a couple of things that you can take for helping dreaming is like ashwagandha and magnesium are two really good ones that will help kind of activate dreaming. And then like the second portion of that, I do get a lot of, for me, I'll get messages that come in words that I think are more of the prophetic nature for me, or they come in songs, verses of songs. So that's been a really interesting way that has come to me through dreaming to get some of that kind of, mystic, the mystic piece of what is it that I need to hear and to learn. So.
Verses of songs that other people wrote, or you mean verses of songs that you're...
Yeah, no, verses of song, boy, I wish. But verses
I was going to say, man, that's impressive.
Right. Well, but I think a lot of songwriters, they get downloads, right? So, but yeah, no, I was like, one of the songs I think that came to me one night was the Bill Withers Lean on Me. And just the passage of sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we always know there is tomorrow. So, I mean, it's just like those pieces of verses that would come to me in the dream that would be like, well, I haven't heard that song in years. And then I'd go back and listen to it. And so, I don't know, those have been really helpful. I had another passage that came to me at one point that said, you just have to wait and see. You cannot see into the future, too many variables, and choice matters. So, I mean, and again, all things I know, right? But came to me in that very succinct way that was quite like, okay, that really tells me, okay, I just got to step back here and do the trust and surrender, which is my motto these days. So,
Wow, that is super beautiful. Oh, I've never had dreams like that. Super fascinating. Todd, anything to add?
I'm going to be a little bit long here. So I found the bridge between the consciousness and unconscious, the dream bridge concept spectacular. I'm fan number one. I mean, it's something I really enjoy because in one way or another, we start to realize whether it's a dream or not. Like at least for me, sometimes I notice that I'm dreaming. I really know that I'm dreaming. And things happen that make me realize, oh, this is a dream. So, Tati, you are in the dream right now. To certain activities going on. Even coincidentally, last night, I realized I was scratching my ears. I was sleeping. Like I was dreaming that, like I was scratching my ear. And that woke me out because I was scratching consciously my ear and it pulled me out of the dream. So that helped me somehow to remember my dream, like I was very deep in my dream, but that helped me to remember that quickly. And that's something like, that's actually what connect this conscious and unconscious part, like that veil, that line, so to speak. So it has become more like I will say like a channel of daily reflection, when I'm dreaming, or I think when everyone is dreaming, daily reflection. And this is basically because of what is happening during the day, like based on your experience, based on what you did or what you not did. You can, of course, interpret that dream and heal and say, here I will heal those activities I couldn't really process during the day, fortunately or unfortunately. So I think that's a lot of regarding this experience, and the dreams are just like kind of the maker of to bring some clearness in your daily life. And of course, there are many people who have become helpers and who collaborate in dream interpretation. You just mentioned one of the, I said, pioneers in dream interpretation and also prophetizing. I really like Edgar Cayce. I would love to be in his epoch. I don't know if I have been before there, but I really like that. And I think it's just something that it is very personal, and it helps you to discern the incoming information of the daily experience. I will leave it there.
Yeah, and that's super cool if you have actually like realized in the dream that you were dreaming. I don't think I've ever had that experience, and I know that's something we're actually going to be looking at before too long in some other passages. So I'll table any questions I have about that for now. Ken, did you have anything to add? Any thoughts, reflections on anything from the passage or what's been shared?
Yeah, the first being that Ra is essentially outlining that we have two functions. The first to heal, and the second is to get this prophetic type of experience that essentially becomes of service to others because one is choosing service. So that it's not necessarily like the prophetic dream itself isn't meant to polarize the individual, but the experience of having it and sharing it, speaking to that hungry world, then is a thing that becomes of service. And just there may be like, and a question that I'm asking myself is, well, I've had like a bunch of other types of dreams, because sometimes we've had like precognitive dreams when, and maybe it's not like prophetic in the sense that it's speaking to a hungry world. It was just I dreamt of standing in a checkout line or something, and then you're there like the next day seeing the same person, or like I saw like an intersection of streets, and the next day when I was driving, my usual route was blocked because of construction, so I took a different route that I'd never taken before, and lo and behold, I'm seeing that intersection that wasn't. So it's not like a prophetic thing, but it was precognitive. And so I just started asking myself questions as we were reading this quote about like, oh, I wonder how these other types of dreams that people have kind of fit in and the difference between them. Because like when Peggy was talking, when you do have these other larger dreams that kind of shake your reality in a way, or that kind of speak to a core universal fundamental truth or principle, it has a very different energetic aesthetic to it. Like you wake up still kind of feeling the gravity of it, and you want to share, um, which is different from some of these other dreams that are maybe giving you an opportunity to balance something that you've experienced earlier on in the day that you maybe didn't approach consciously very well, uh, energetically, leaving you imbalanced. So I don't know if that's necessarily an offering or a question or a little bit of both, but that's kind of where my brain went.
Yeah, super fascinating. And as you were speaking, I was trying to remember. There's a passage I read a while ago where I think the question was about deja vu, like what's the deal with deja vu? And I'm not remembering the specifics, but I remember the answer sounding kind of similar to what you were talking about with prophetic dreams, where they were just saying that it's coming from a place in time space where past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously. So maybe you just kind of got a glimpse of it in that sense. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's what you're saying, but that's a super cool thing.
Yeah, like so maybe some bleed through of that. And some of the quotes that you have planned, I think also add credibility to that look on it.
For sure. Coming up next, I think. Before we change topics, did anybody have anything else they wanted to share about this particular passage before I change? I'll always ask that before we move on to another passage, so don't be shy about sharing something if you had something else to add.
I actually wanted to say something, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I think like this is something like really just remembering and being on your dream is something that you can achieve through practice. I say practice because it's similar to learning, or not really learning, but remembering to forgive, or to forgive yourself, and forgiving yourself will be like this new aspect of dreaming for yourself, because you dream for yourself and no one is implanting seeds. Even it sounds like like you are the one who is dreaming, and all that information is already out there in the ether, in the Akashic record, which hold all the dialogues that we have experienced, all our lives, all our fortunes and misfortunes, all our possibilities. So you start to draw that information, to take that, and that's where you can see if it's a vision or not, or is it really kind of, yeah, it's just a vision. Of course, there are dreams that where you remember them and think like, oh, I remember this happened. Where did it happen? Or like you think like it's kind of a deja vu, or it was meant to be. So I think like maybe we are going to mention that in the future, but keeping the dream journal is a great exercise to understand why is that happening into your dreams, or why is this again repeating again and again and again. And even is a form of venting and a way to practice the talents you have, or that you have, that they are granted for you, like because each of us had exactly the same amount of talents. It's not that this one is talented and this one is less talented. We have exactly the same amount, exactly the same, and it's just up to you what you want to listen, what you want to practice, what you want to do with it.
Indeed. Yeah, well said. Beautifully said. Kind of a nice segue into our next topic as well. If it's okay with you, panelists, let's look at a couple passages on dreaming and time space. In session 86 of the Raw Contact, question 15, Ra said, the portions of the dreaming process which are helpful for polarization and also for the vision of the mystic take place in time-space and consequently use the bridge from metaphysical to physical for what seems to be a brief period of your space-time. The time-space equivalent is far greater. The bridge remains, however, and introduces each distortion of mind, body, and spirit as it has received the distortions of energy influxes so that healing may take place. This healing process does not occur with the incidence of rapid eye movement, but rather occurs largely in the space-time portion of the mind-body-spirit complex using the bridge to time-space for the process of healing to be enabled. Dreams take, on February 11th, 1990, Quo said, dreams take place in an unified state of creation, in an unified, timeless, spaceless nexus where all things are simultaneous, where the universe is truly malleable, for it is all within you. As you are awake at this time, you are aware of shape and figure, the shape of your bodies, the weight pressing down upon the cushions upon which you sit, the sounds, the smells, the sensations of time and space. It is, indeed, a complete and excellent illusion, but within you lies that which is beyond illusion, and though you cannot even plumb the depths and know what is called the truth, yet the truth may be known in you, and you may be the truth, so that each is truth to another, but never to the self. The self is always unknown. Creation is always unknown. Puzzles and perplexities abound in these passages. For viewers who are not familiar with this, space-time refers to the physical universe that we can perceive with our five senses and is also referred to in channelings as the outer planes. Time-space refers to the metaphysical universe that we cannot perceive with our five senses and is also referred to as the inner planes. If that sounds weird to you, just know that the visible light spectrum that we can see with our eyes is really only a tiny sliver of what's called the electromagnetic spectrum, and who knows where, what sort of vibrations and energy waves there are beyond gamma rays or radio waves. So it's not that weird to suggest that there is some other form of universe that is just not really detectable with our senses or technology. But it certainly opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of dreaming taking place in that time space where past, present, and future all seem to be happening simultaneously. Tot, did you have any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Yeah, like it's just, well, for me it's really funny, because it has been clear, and I think we have even discussed in several calls. I mean, not just in this podcast, but in other calls, how this space time and this time space works. And I have realized is that generally when we dream, we always dream either during the day or during the night. There is not like the two times happening, like it's just like a continuous, it's just day or it's just night. There is not really change in light, or so to speak. It's always be the same, and that's what it helped me to recognize whether it is I'm dreaming or not, like if I notice that it's just light, I'm like, I'm dreaming right now, this is a dream. So it also helped me to understand that in this space-time or time-space, as this quote puts it, everything is happening like is kind of permanent somehow. You don't see any change, and what it seems like a second can actually feel like an eternity, like you have multiple things there. And all of those are happening or occur simultaneously. But for me, it's like it has always been either like, it's not really like a change, and those impressions are like kind of this, for me, it's like kind of another reality, or this illusion keep recurring, and you are there like being unpacked then in your dreams, like it's kind of, I just really enjoy that. And I know it can sound a little bit of complex, but everyone has their own interpretations. There are like many examples I could mention, but like everyone contributes a little bit into your reality, into your own reality. And I have a lot of fun when I go to sleep, because it's like, all right, Dad, movie time. And there are intense movies, really like intense movies, that I just wake up crying or like feeling everything, and I smell. I eat a lot because I love to eat in dreams. I don't have to pay for it. I sense everything. Like I feel everything, and it's just being awake in another world, and that's how it is.
Super cool. Super beautiful. Yeah. Ken, anything to add?
Yeah, the first thing for the first paragraph, I think part of it is logistical because of the questions that Don was asking going up to it about rapid eye movement. And I think Raj trying to differentiating, saying that the healing doesn't take place because your eyes are physically moving. Like the healing takes place because of this bridge between the subconscious and the conscious, or space time and time space, and exploring that is like where the healing comes through. Um, just because sometimes, and I totally could be wrong, because this is why we talk in groups, because when you read raw, sometimes it's like, what does this actually mean? And when I read that in the context of the questions before it, that was kind of my that Dawn was emphasizing this rapid eye movement period of sleep. And I think Ra is saying, like, yes, this happens during that stage, but the rapid eye movement isn't the important thing here. Let's direct our attention back over to, the cause and the healing that's taking place. And then I absolutely love this second quote, and this is one that I hadn't um, read or was aware of until just yesterday when I was, preparing for this. And I think it's stated so beautiful, because it's like trying to remember a dream is this weird experience, and if you remember being in the dream and you can kind of remember what it was like, there very much is this time is not linear, and you get a taste of that, of what it's like for time to not be linear. And when you're there, it makes sense, and you're in it, and you're like, everything is as it should be, and you're not even thinking about it. It's not that you're amazed by it, it's just the way that it is in the dream. And then it's not until you wake up and you look back at it from time space, and you're like, oh my gosh, there was some weird thing happening in the dream with going into the future and coming back, and time was not this linear phenomenon. And then you're trying to communicate that to somebody in an experience where time is a linear phenomenon, and it makes no sense then, you know? And so I think Kuo eloquently shared a passage that kind of helps us understand and interpret that kind of phenomenon, and gives credibility to, like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm not insane.
Yeah.
But also this deeper truth, kind of mirroring that with the outside to the inside, and how that, like, even though we may not understand, like, that truth is actually down in there, again emphasizing us to meditate and kind of seek and to know the self, because the self is the other at the same thing. So I just thank you for finding this gem of a quote to share. There's just so much to reflect on.
Yeah, well, and thank you for sharing all the passages that you did with me in advance were those all from session 86? All the passages?
A lot of them. I have to go back and double check, but yeah, they come back to it quite a few times.
Yeah, there are a lot of passages from there that unfortunately I did not include here, including the ones that you mentioned leading up to question 15, where Don was asking questions about rapid eye movement. So appreciate putting that in context for us. That second passage really is fascinating. I mean, anytime we get into time space where they're saying that all things are simultaneous, I think circular time is another phrase that they use to refer to this sense where time and time space is not linear as it is in space time. Past, present, future are all happening at the same time, which is pretty fascinating to meditate on. Peggy, anything to add?
Yeah, it's all lovely. I think yeah, that space between conscious and unconscious, where we are trying to integrate, and that integration is what's really the, like, referred to as the self archetype, but that we never can quite get there. And I feel like that's that very last passage of the self is always unknown and the creation is always unknown. That we are trying to, as we walk into dreams, and we're into this unconscious realm with so many others, right? I mean, the unconscious holds all of us. And so, and trying to find our integration into that is just fascinating to me. So, and I was struggling a bit with the self is always unknown, the creation is always unknown, but that seems like that makes sense, that it's as we are kind of between these two worlds in our dreams, it is really difficult to know the whole truth about everything, right? And so we are trying to integrate all of this, and yet so much of it remains unknown and unclear to us. And then the acceptance of that is the other piece. So that's kind of my takeaway on that. But yeah, beautiful. This is a beautiful passage.
Yeah, I was definitely keying in on that last part too, about the self always being unknown, the creation is always unknown. I guess it made me think of, well, the whole premise of the law of one is that all is one. We are all one. And that if you were able to go think of your mind as like an iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg above water is like your conscious mind, the part you can see, and then the subconscious mind would be the part of the iceberg just below the surface where you can kind of get a glimpse of it. And then the unconscious mind would be the rest of the iceberg below sea level that you can't see, can't access. You just kind of take it as a given that it exists. And apparently, according to the law of one, yeah, if you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper below the unconscious mind of an individual, then you get to the racial mind, the mind of your race from this planet or another planet, and then the planetary mind, and then the archetypical mind, and then eventually you would get to the universal mind where we're all one and we are the one infinite creator. And yeah, that's a level that few people ever actually reach in their incarnations, I think. Maybe Jesus, maybe Buddha, I don't know.
And if you think about the iceberg analogy, I mean, you go down one day to the area below the iceberg and it changes, right? So yeah. It is forever changing, right? So that's why I think it will always remain a bit of an unknown. So yeah, so that's interesting. That's great. Thank you.
The mysteries never end, apparently. I know there's passages where they have said that even at fifth density, sixth density, it's like, we don't know what reality is any more than you do. Whenever we think we're getting a grasp on reality, it just recedes further into the distance. Like a carrot on a stick. It's like, wow, that's...
In the, another thing that this reminds me of is the Ra is constantly saying, anytime they use the word understand, they always say, like, this distortion, like it's not understanding, but for lack of a better word, understanding. Right. And then even the question where, like, I think Don is trying to ask him if it's essential that somebody knows about or has an awareness of the law of one, but Ra uses the opportunity to sneak in and kind of answer the question the way he asked it verbally, but not energetically. And Ra's like, it's important, or like it's an imperative that the entity realize they do not understand everything. And like how freeing and empowering that is to kind of like take that burden off your shoulders. And we see it echoed here with the, like, the self is always unknown. The creation is always unknown. So like, what actually is that, that we call this understanding?
Yeah, I appreciate your reminder of that, because it's true. Whenever they say understanding, they always say parenthetically, for lack of a better word. I've actually started doing that in my emails and social media comments, just because it's so funny and appropriate. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to add on this passage before we change topics, look at something else? Sounds good. Did want to let our viewers know that if you are interested in learning a little bit more about this thing called space time and time space, we did a podcast episode on it, episode 28. Check it out. A lot of fascinating passages where we dig deeper into that very thing. Otherwise, let's look at a couple of passages on interpreting dreams. In session 95 of the Raw Contact, question 18, the questioner asks, in processing the catalyst of dreams, is there a universal language of the unconscious mind which may be used to interpret the meaning of dreams? Or does each entity have a unique language of its unconscious mind which it may use to interpret the meaning of dreams? Ra, I am Ra. There is what might be called a partial vocabulary of the dreams due to the common heritage of all mind-body-spirit complexes. Due to each entity's unique incarnational experiences, there is an overlay which grows to be a larger and larger portion of the dream vocabulary as the entity gains experience. And in a channeling of Quo on January 19th, 2019, Quo said, if you wish to work with your dreams in an efficient manner, it is well to attempt to remember each dream and each portion of each dream as soon as possible upon the awakening, for even more appropriate and effective to awaken after the dream to record it in some fashion, whether you use that which you call the recording device or simple pad and pencil does not matter. What matters is that you attempt to recall each detail as accurately as you can as soon as the dream is completed, and then give over to this dream remembrance the time necessary as soon as you awaken to analyze the dream, to look for those meanings that are pointed to you in the heart of your being to move you further along your path of seeking. Look for that vocabulary that will begin to develop itself within your dream state and begin to speak to you in a clear fashion, so that when certain events or opportunities or entities are encountered within the dream, you will know immediately that a certain type of experience is being had and offered to you for the seeking of that truth that lies deep within the heart of your being, within your unconscious mind. They many, many times encourage people to keep some sort of recording device by bedside to record dreams as soon as you can when you awaken. This is just one of them. Ken, any thoughts to share? I would love to hear what this passage means to you in terms of your own dream journaling.
Yeah, so I absolutely, I've done pen and paper. I've kept the dream journal for probably like 15 years now. And I've recently switched to just keeping my phone next to me so that I can open up a notes app and do voice to text. And so I can keep my eyes closed, keep the phone close to me. I don't have to talk loud and disturb anybody else. And that really helps me to kind of stay in that moment, to keeping my eyes closed, to kind of rehash and remember it. And I don't know if the movie that you're referencing, the quiz later, is Inception, but one thing that I like from that is they ask, they're like, what's the last thing you remember? And then the nugget they ask then is like, do you remember how you got there or what happened before that? And that is like exactly the way the trail of breadcrumbs work for me. And like when you're first starting out, it might feel like you need to crack through a layer of ice to get through the lake, you know? And then the more you do it, the stronger your ice cracker gets. And then soon it's not even a layer of ice. You're just like, you just have to step out of the boat and, you know, go into the water. And, but still, I kind of ask myself those questions. I was like, what happened before that? How did I get there? And I kind of work my way backwards. And also much like in Inception, the way they represent the passage of time, the way that you're experiencing it versus like how much time actually passed when you wake up and you feel like you've just gone through a war based on the dream, and you look at the clock and it's been like, you know, 45 minutes and you're like, what just happened? So yeah, absolutely record the dreams. And much like Peggy, though, when she mentioned in interpreting them, she doesn't give as much time for that. I first focus on just remembering everything as much as I can, as accurately as I can. Then when I go back and read through it, which is usually like the next day or something like that, not necessarily as Kuo suggested immediately upon waking, that's when I kind of get to interpreting it. And kind of like I said earlier, I think we have more agency in the symbols that we use. And so like there is no right or wrong dream dictionary. If you have one next to your bed that your parents got for you, you can just say like, okay, higher self, guides and angels, let's use this one, and then they will work with you and your subconscious will work with you to use what you have.
Makes perfect sense. I think I have read somewhere that dreaming about a house, commonly in terms of this shared dream vocabulary that Rao referred to, houses often represent like our life, our way of living, way of being. Mm-hmm. Has that been your experience in your dreams, that when you're dreaming about being in a house, it's kind of like a metaphor for your life?
I think so. It could. This is where the emotional context, I think, really it comes into play. So, like, if you're dreaming about a house, then like, my first question is, what was your vibe when you were in that house in the dream? And then, go from there. And that's where it kind of depends on each person. But I know, like, as far as just physical representations, I know cars for me literally will often be the physical vehicle. So, like, a body, a problem, I'll often dream about elevators, and I'm either going to like the top floor or the bottom floor. And I think you can look at loosely lower chakras, upper chakras. Sometimes I'll remember the floor. I'm trying to go to floor 3, but can't, or I keep getting interrupted. So maybe this is a third chakra blockage.
Are there different colors on the floors that you get out of? Like, is third floor yellow by any chance?
Usually when colors come for me, it's not, it's like, when I'm recording the dream, it's what stands out to me when I'm recalling it. And so I just take that as the cue, whether it was, like I said earlier, a shirt that someone was wearing, or the shoes, or the color of the car, or whatever. I just kind of, when I'm then reading back through it, colors are always a cue for chakras for me, at least when I first start to interpret it.
Super interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Peggy, I know you've been dream journaling for a long time. Care to share thoughts on what Ken shared or your own experiences?
Yeah, really interesting. I guess when I was going back through my dream journal in preparation for this, some things that I did find, like feelings of inadequacy and frustration, were really common in the areas where I did document the feelings. So that to me was a significant piece of something that, again, I feel like I need to really go a little bit deeper into and look at, because certainly I am not inadequate, but but maybe it is that, because one thing that I did read was to say that oftentimes some of these feelings are symbols of maybe not necessarily that particular feeling, but the fear of actually doing something bigger. And so that was kind of interesting to me as I was looking through stuff. And right now I'm kind of been analyzing dreams based on going through and looking at what I think are the symbols, and then just taking some time to just free form analyze that particular symbol. Don't think about it too much. Don't judge anything. Just write down what all of that means. So, like, there were these 2 salesmen in my dream a few nights ago. So I just wrote down, how do I feel about salesmen? What do they represent? So just kind of putting all of those pieces together and then going back and putting it all together. But it is time consuming. Like Tat was saying earlier, it's there. You have to devote a certain amount of time, and I'm in a good space right now where I can do that. So that's actually kind of lovely. But like what you were saying about houses, prior to us moving, houses in my dreams were always so chaotic, so full of stuff. So, it was just always felt really uncomfortable. And so, and since we've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, got forced to get rid of a lot of stuff because of a flood, that's not a part of my dreams anymore. So it's just kind of interesting how, looking back over the dream journal, I can see where there's been progression, because those things aren't coming up anymore in my dreams. So I thought
Super
that was,
fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have you ever have dreams about flying? What does flying mean to you in a dream?
Gosh, I don't have many dreams with flying. So a journey, a fast journey. A birds would be flying for me. Gosh, what else would flying be? Wings, angels. So just kind of free form, throwing it out there. And again, I
I've had
think
a few dreams where I was flying. I mean, not in an airplane. I mean, I was like
you
flying.
were flying,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so I think it's, looking at that, and then the things I've read have said, look for the thing that really resonates with you, where it's almost like, aha, oh yeah, that's what that means, and that's typically when you recognize what that symbol actually means to you, is when you kind of have that aha moment.
That
So
makes
and
sense.
that's what I'm playing with right now with my dream analysis.
Super cool. Most definitely takes some discipline. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I think
Todd,
part.
go ahead. Go ahead, Peggy.
That's the hardest part, is the discipline of writing it down, and again, trying to do it when I wake up. But if it's in the middle of the night, it's so hard to have that discipline to stop and to
Right.
kind of wake myself up enough and then write it. So, it's just, yeah, trying to find that and not judge it too much. You got to have fun with it too.
Yeah, for sure. Todd, anything to add?
Ooh, for the first one, we talked before about that, like from the RAS session, that interpretation is completely personal. I think that's really, sometimes we just think that the other one is right and not ourselves. So we want to find always validation outside. But everyone has their own way to approach that, like, and some goes take courses and discuss them with someone. Some people focus on theory and look for books and patterns, but I think sometimes just simply what we are doing here today, talking about dreaming, helps and it makes more sense. And because of that, the second quote from Quo. Remembering, for me, it works well when I discuss dreams with relatives or friends. I really try to discuss that with someone close to me. It's easier, and sometimes I notice patterns that I say like, wow, I actually works. And I was telling you that I dreamed this yesterday and it happened to my ear. But I also dreamed yesterday that I have somehow felt pain into my skin. And like I was like, okay, so pain into my skin. And today when I was making lunch, I just cut myself. So here's the bandage again. And I was like, oh, now I remember that was a dream. I dreamed that I was feeling pain into my skin. And like you can call it like a kind of a premonition. And sometimes things repeat and a repetitive pattern that helps you to grasp the message. Like it's like fishing. You just look for the fishing spots, and when you catch something, you understand the meaning. Sometimes you get mirror dreams, even. Well, not exactly mirrors, but dreams where you sense that they are trying to tell you something, that they are trying to tell yourself something, but you don't know how to interpret it. And also, like regarding vocabulary, like like the meaning of things. For me, for example, doing laundry. Guys, doing laundry in a dream for me means that I'm going to travel soon. And that took me like more than 7 years to understand. I was like even talking with someone like, I have dreaming that I laundry. Why I do laundry? And I think the answer came this year, and I was like, well, Tati, you are going to travel soon. And that's one thing. And the other one, like dreaming of animals, or well, like puppies or cubs, no matter what kind of cub, for me means new projects that are coming. And depending of the number of puppies, that's how many projects that are going to arrive into my experience. So these are things like kind of, like things you assign interpretation, to this experience that had happened to you. And well, yeah, like even, like I also dream in swimming pools or in the ocean, in the sea. And for me, the color of the water represents the situation I'm currently living through. Like if I'm terrified to get into the water, or it's clean and clear, or if there are many pools like lake or seas, that reflects the kind of the situation I'm living depending on the water's clarity. So I know that for Ken, like going into the elevator means like going into different planes, like approaching different stances of densities. And even you were asking about flying. For me, flying is more like you are already grasping the situation. You have the complete view, but you're still denying that this is happening, because in reality you cannot fly. But you already know that that's possible, like in your dreams, that already you have the whole situation is there for you. So this is like kind of meanings. That's what I can say about that. And it's just like kind of, like a game, because in reality, you are just having this avatar and you're exploring this avatar as Ken, as Peggy, as Jonathan. And it's just up to you which character, which sensation, which emotion you want to transmit into your avatar.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think usually for me, if I dream I'm swimming in a lake or a pool, it means I got to go to the bathroom. That usually wakes me up fairly soon after, especially if the water is yellow. It's not yellow, Ray. Did anybody have anything to add on this slide before we change topics? Look at something else.
I was just going to ask you, Jonathan, what does flying mean to you?
It doesn't happen very often. So when I do, it's usually pretty remarkable. And I think for me in my dream vocabulary, I kind of interpret it as my astral body, my spirit self separated from body and flying. Because I don't usually see my physical body. I'm just kind of seeing trees from above through my perspective or something. And I'm not a real fan of heights, so it took me a long time to get to the point where I could actually fly and not be like totally freaked out about it. So, anybody else have anything to add? Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting, because like for me, flying is this ultimate expression of freedom and mobility and unencumbered, and almost like a natural state. So anytime I know that I am dreaming, the first thing I do in that state is, attempt to fly. And we can chat about this in some of the other quotes about like threading that needle of focusing too hard to wake yourself up, but also just participating as the character in that dream, and, using your intention of focusing on where do I want to fly instead of how am I going to fly to get there. Like the means by which it happens is not as important as the intention of what you would like to manifest.
Super fascinating, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about that. That is probably a good segue into our next section. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at a passage on dreaming and adepthood. In session 86, question 7 of the Raw Contact, Ra said, as a mind-body-spirit complex consciously chooses the path of the adept, and with each energy center balanced to a minimal degree, begins to open the indigo ray energy center, the so-called dreaming becomes the most efficient tool for polarization. For if it is known by the adept that work may be done in consciousness while the so-called conscious mind rests, this adept may call upon those which guide it, those presences which surround it, and most of all, the magical personality, which is the higher self in space-time analog as it moves into the sleeping mode of consciousness. With these affirmations attended to, the activity of dreaming reaches that potential of learned teaching, which is most helpful to increasing the distortions of the adept towards its chosen polarity. For folks who are new to the Law of One, the term adept pops up quite a bit in channeling the sessions. And as my understanding of it, panelists, feel free to share if you have other interpretations of it. Adept generally means an advanced student, somebody who's, in this case, as they're saying in the first part, they've kind of done the basic work of balancing and activating their lower energy centers, the red ray, orange ray, yellow ray, and now they are moving into the work with the higher energy centers, the blue ray and indigo ray and violet ray. And it's where all the cool stuff happens. The indigo ray being like the third eye chakra, the gateway to intelligent infinity. Panelists, does that sound about right to you? Anybody have different thoughts on the meaning of the word adept?
Nope, sounds right.
Good. Peggy, did you have any thoughts on anything from this passage?
Well, for me on this one, it really talks about personally, it really helps me with that bedtime ritual, that ritual of putting out to the unconscious realm, to my guides, to the spirits, to the angels, the masters, to come to me, through my dreams. And again, with this discussion, what I am sensing for myself too is that I can be more specific, right, about what I really am looking for within my dream. One of the things that's been interesting lately that I've been doing is when I do wake up in the middle of the night and I'm having this dream and I'm really, I know I should write it down, but I can't convince myself at that point in time because it's the middle of the night and I don't want to wake myself up so much that I won't fall back to sleep. What I've been doing is asking to go back into that dream. And I have been, which is really, really fascinating. So again, I think, that connection, those folks who are out there to help us, if we call on them, they will help us with our dreaming, our dreaming state and what we need to bring into it. So again, being a little more specific for me, I think is the thing that I'm going to start working on, after this experience with all of you. So thank you.
Yeah, super fascinating. Thanks for sharing. Being able to return to the dream after like getting up and going to the bathroom and being able to go back. That sounds fairly adept to me, I would say.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's been good.
Sure. Yeah. Todd, anything to add?
Well, the work of the adept, I think that's like kind of a talent. I believe that each person chooses which talent to develop, and in a way or another creates a kind of connection with it. You create your own connections, and with the whole process of creation, because at the end you are creating your experience. So when the conscious mind, the one that is always thinking and constantly busy and like it's just busy, finally rest, then the spirit, like in this case, by dreaming or by resting, as you know, starts to work, and that's when this interaction between the two happens. So, and yes, for me, it's like each person chooses how to work with their gifts and virtues, and obviously, we all have the same gifts and virtues, as I said before, but each person picks the one that is more malleable, like malleable. I think that's a word, or the one that is best, like is kind of the best, allows them to interpret their own experience. Some people are really good with reading cards, like doing readings, others at Reiki, and others like with energy sessions, and like some do well just by observing, and then others thrive through dreaming and so on. So yes, maybe it's that the pet of the adept, just you choose the one, you choose your medium.
Beautiful. Yeah, such a good reminder that the word unique comes up so often in channeling sessions, because they are always reminding us that every soul is unique, every spiritual journey is unique, and that, different gifts, different talents, different practices, different strengths, different weaknesses. We all brought different things into this incarnation. So appreciate your reminder. Ken, anything to add?
I would just add the echoing your sentiments of the adept is when every time they mention the adept, they always mention the work of the adept, and that implied with it is work. It is not something that is accidentally stumbled upon. It's like there is some degree of repetitive and I don't want to say control, but you figured some stuff out, and they always emphasize that there is work going into it. And in that regard, this quote to me is so comforting because it really is a reminder of like this awesome energetic support system that we all have. And they just list a couple of them here about like and they're saying the most important being the magical personality or your higher self, and you might have some slides that you can share about that for folks that maybe aren't familiar with Ra's explanation of the whole mid sixth density looking back thing. But the idea of we have these guides, angels, helpers, higher self, just waiting for us to ask, even in the dream state, and then even in the dream state to get this nugget that like it then transcends into learning and teaching. So it's less random. We've done the work, and also implied in that work is a balance to a minimal degree. Always again emphasizing this importance of balance. Like without that, we can't get to any of this cool stuff that you mentioned before, like in the higher energy centers. But like you have to have this minimal level of balance. And then once you have that, we can start doing like the AP work of dreams and start learning teaching with our guides, and this is like, it's really inspiring to know that like I kind of want to self-judge myself and be like, oh man, I've been alive for like 42 years and I've always forget to put like an affirmation that I want to do this when I dream tonight, but it's like another reminder to be kind to yourself and to explore that, follow that path.
For sure. Yeah, and this might be a good time to let our viewers know that you don't have to be an adept to graduate from third to fourth density. It is extremely unnecessary, but what they have said is super important and necessary is making sure that before you try to do the work in the higher energy centers, that you really have activated and balanced the lower centers to at least a minimal amount, as Ken was saying, because otherwise you're kind of trying to build something tall on a shaky foundation, and it does rarely ends well. So for sure, doing what they call the inner work on balancing your energy centers, especially the lower ones, is super important, especially to work on the green ray. I know that's the energy center that I'm really focusing on most these days. Just trying to keep my heart open and unconditional love and forgiveness for all, in spite of all the fuckery going on around the world these days. That's really my ongoing, that's my version of Adepthood, I would say, for sure. This is the sweariest Law of One podcast on the internet, just in case you didn't know. So feel free to let it fly, panelists, if you ever feel so inclined.
That's beautiful.
Does anyone else have anything to add on this passage before we move on to something else? Sounds good. I did want to mention the work in consciousness that they're referring to here does refer to a lot of work with the energy centers, and specifically the Indigo Ray Energy Center. And if you're interested in learning more about that, check out our podcast episode on work in consciousness. Otherwise, let's take a look at a couple passages on dream work. On February 2nd, 1997, Quo said, "The subconscious portions of each entity's mind are filled with the patterns of the incarnative experience and send various portions of these lessons and experiences to the conscious mind in the form of the dream, that there might be a dialogue with the conscious entity seeking to uncover the treasures of the subconscious mind. In order to be able to work with these dream images, it is well that the seeker send a message to the subconscious mind that it is ready to work upon those messages in dreams. This may be done by reminding the self before bedtime to attempt to remember one dream this night, to further reinforce this desire by placing the appropriate instruments to record the dream whenever one is able to remember the dream, whether it is shortly after the dream or upon waking in the morning. It is through the constant repetition to the self, the subconscious mind, that one wishes to work with these dreams, that the subconscious mind will become convinced that the conscious self is serious in this desire, and will then begin to release to the conscious mind dreams which will be able to be remembered. I really like that part. It's like your mind and your subconscious mind are like a guy and a girl. And the girl really wants to know, are you really serious about this? Are you really, before I give you something important, I just need to know, are you really serious about this? And I think it's a beautiful teaching, and probably why when I tried Dreamwork for a period of like 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't necessarily get that much out of it because I think my subconscious mind knew that I really wasn't that serious about it. I wasn't committed to it for long term. So good stuff there. Tot, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Oh, I have to say, I found like so interesting the new pictures you put in each slide, like it's more colorful. Like I know you were spending some time making the pictures.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
appreciate that. I don't do this for every podcast episode, but I was able to find a lot of great images to use here. So
But
I
you did it,
appreciate
and I'm noticing it. So,
Mhm.
coming back to the quote, so for example, what I have also noticed is that when you set the intention to dream about someone or something, it's super important, like really super important to be able to talk about with that other person in case you have to set an intention about as a partner, and for example, or a friend, or even a situation. For instance, writing it down before you are going to sleep and speaking or practicing a mantra like, thank you for this activity I'm about to undertake. Thank you for revealing the meaning of this situation. Thank you for releasing the process that has been held back and showing in the dream, like really like being, I, I really am super thankful because I met this woman and she told me that I can always do like kind of a discharge of the day while dreaming, and it's just closing all the experiences, and then you close all the experiences, you just the day is finishing and you are entering into a new kind of trance, let's say. So I'm super thankful because finally I got to that point. So yeah, so to just go through it, and somehow the process has been held back and is showing in the dream. So that's really amazing. The more people are in one way or another connected with your dreams and set that intention is wonderful. It's like meditation. The more you meditate with people, the more interesting it becomes. So I truly believe if you just decide with a group of people you love or people that are connected to you, the more of them that are dreaming based on the same intention, the more everyone's will share it and will be super excellent to get like the distillation of that situation, like. And I think that's something that unfortunately Edgar Casey is not more here, and not even their dream hospital or university or what it is, what it was. But I think that will be awesome if we have, like, instead of doing like meditation and mantras and yoga and this, like, we just decide to go sleep all of us together and dream into a purpose. Because if you have this bridge, if you have the bridge to direct connection to your consciousness, imagine how awesome will be just to find finally how that will come to your reality, like to have this interpretation and to have the more like kind of the remembering part into this kind of experience. Yeah.
Sounds like what they did in Inception, I believe, dreaming as a group for sure. Many great pop culture references here. Really like that group.
Oh,
Really
and
appreciate
have
what you
you
said about the thinking, because as they said
Yeah.
before, it's really important to ask for help from your higher self and your guardian spirit guides to help you with your dreams. But it is also equally important to thank them to show the appreciation for that. Agree.
Yeah, because mainly, sorry, I'm just going to say something shortly. Also, someone said to me once, you don't have to ask for help or to please give me something. So don't ask of the lack of something, but just be grateful because that's already happening. So instead of asking for help, just be grateful, like, thank you because you are here together. Thank you because we are going to work together into this process. Thank you because I'm already healing. Thank you because I know that this life has a lot of experiences I have to go through and now are getting clear. instead of then please give me more clearness into this process, because that's the lacking. So you are asking for more lacking instead of being grateful because that is happening already. So you are already processing the experience.
That is a really valuable teaching. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No, not a
Ken,
teaching,
and
just saying.
yeah, yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me. Ken, anything to add?
Thanks, Jonathan. I would just quickly echo and um, encourage Tat's sentiments of the intent, the importance of the intent, and the many different ways you can manifest that. So if you have listeners that are struggling to remember their dreams, one way is to speak. Tonight, I will remember the stream. Another way is to write it. Tonight, I will remember the stream. The actual kinetic action of taking the journal or the phone or whatever and putting it next to you, and any other way that you can think that works for you personally, to, as you said earlier, Jonathan, show your courting of the self, the subconscious, that you're serious about this commitment. Any ways that you can manifest that, I think, will help you achieve those results.
Nice. Sounds very archetypical mind, the courting part. I do seem to remember something about that in there for another episode. Peggy, anything to add?
Well, first off, I would say Todd is a good teach learner. So great point about come at it from that point of gratitude versus lacking. I think that's beautiful. I also think it's that idea of having a group where you're sleeping together with a intent of dreaming together is lovely. And I mean, I think that's a great research project for somebody, not me, but somebody.
Somebody else, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And the only other thing I would say is that in my own experience, the idea that the subconscious or the unconscious wants to know that you're serious is really, really important. And that for me, I experienced that once when I first started journaling, back when I initially was diagnosed with chronic illness back in 2019, I just really at that point said, okay, I am going to be serious about this. I really want to seek what dreams can help me with. So that sense of every night stopping and saying, I'm here. I have my paper and pen next to me. I'm open to whatever I can receive. And then as they saw that I was more serious, I got more dreams and I felt more. And, or I experienced more dreams. I was able to write them. And it just seemed like that was the place where, yes, once the unconscious knew that I was serious, they really helped. So that was just my experience with it. So
makes sense to me. Yeah, a lot of it comes down to will and intent and discipline. I think I might only add that maybe an important part of that asking for intent is to frame it in terms of something that you're asking for in order to help you be of more service to others, since that really is the whole end point of third density. Everything seems to be about choosing that path of service to others or service to self and just committing to polarize as far as you can on it. So I would think, at least my experience has been, I get more help, I receive more help whenever I frame things in terms of trying to be more of service to others.
Yeah, because I do kind of wonder, so service to self individuals, they can do the same thing with all of this, right? I mean, and whatever that leads to for them is where that leads. But you're right. I mean, being very clear about I'm on a path of helping others. So that's where I want to go,
Sure. Yeah, I think Quill has said more than a few times that there are many angelic beings in the inner planes who are attracted to us based largely on the purity of one's intentions. The more one is pure in their intentions to be of service to others, the more they attract those angelic beings that vibrate at that level. So just putting that out there. We did a podcast episode on angels and archangels. Check it out, people, if you're interested. We've done 65 of these episodes so far, so you're going to hear me making a lot of cross references there. Anybody have anything they wanted to add before we look at another passage on this topic?
Briefly, I would just add another, since we were talking about the ritual of sleep and like the nighttime ritual and the preparation and the intentions, another thing that I will do is just quickly visualize the colors of those energy centers from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then maybe go back down. And a lot of times I get like to green, blue, and like I'm already asleep, so like it kind of just the repetition of the ritual kind of adds the spiritual and energetic inertia to that. And then once that starts to kind of take place, then, but just kind of going into it with the intention of balancing already might add to that.
For sure. Yeah, really cannot overemphasize the importance of balance. I know they said at least a couple times that balance in the energy centers is really more important than trying to activate any one in particular. It's how they all work together as a tone poem, shall we say, that is apparently more important. Appreciate your sharing that. Anybody else? Anything wanted to share before we look at another passage? This one is a little bit longer. I think I got 2 slides on this one. This is from March 6, 2010. Quo said, when one approaches that magical thing known as sleep, one realizes that one is going on a journey into completely uncharted waters. One is moving closer to that threshold betwixt that which has any relation to the conscious mind and that which is closer to the geology, geography, and topography of the archetypal mind, with its water system of emotions and its various watersheds. When one approaches sleep, then, one knows one is setting out upon a journey, and you may very effectively hedge yourself about with a system of aid from angelic sources, from sources within the inner planes, from your guidance, and from your essential self, that self which is the creator, asking for help. Setting the intention to rely upon that help creates for you a certain foundation for that dream life, which is most helpful. Coming from a different perspective, there is also a great aid in the setting of the intention to become aware of the self within the dream. As the one known as S2 has said, the simple remembrance that this is a dream is very helpful in reducing the pain of that which occurs in the dream world. Creating an intention to become aware within the dream by causing that image, which is the self within the dream, to move. Even the movement of an arm or the opening and closing of an eye within a dream is very powerful in allowing one to move through these very helpful experiences of dreaming in ways which are not fearful or harmful. Above all, the setting of the intention to use dream time for the purpose of service to the one infinite creator and the radiation of light is very helpful in so arranging the self, known and unknown, in configurations that shall enable one to maximize the experiences found in dreaming, so that they may inform one about those deeper energies with which one is working. Remembering that all that occurs in experience, waking or sleeping, is some distortion of love, gives you the path back to love itself, and you are, above all, creatures of love. Really beautiful passage, and so much to unpack in there, and a lot of stuff that I think we have already spoken to. I'm really picking up on that part on the top paragraph here where they talk about becoming aware within the dream by causing that image, which is the self within the dream, to move. Even the movement of an arm or the opening and closing of an eye within a dream is very powerful in allowing one to move through these helpful experiences. I think that's something that you spoke to earlier, Ken, in terms of consciously willing some sort of movements or things in your dreams to be the trigger to yourself that you are in fact dreaming while you're dreaming. Care to share any more about that, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. there's a lot of if we're reading this with the interpretation of like things you can do to help you have that realization that one is dreaming. And this is kind of like A Course in Miracles, behaviors and exercises as well. Like throughout the day, look at your hand and say, like, am I dreaming? And then you just get so used to doing it in your conscious state that it is a habit in the unconscious state. So then in your dream, you look at your hand, you say, am I dreaming? And you're like, oh, I am. And then the first time it works, you're like, oh, okay. And maybe that's your way in to being that it's lucid. And that's just like one example. Like it could be a wink or a blink, like they're saying. For me, I like flying and doing like backflips. So if that starts happening, or if I start to jump really high, that's kind of a trigger for me where I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Or sometimes I get this phenomenon where like I don't have ice skates on, but it feels like I'm just effortlessly gliding over the floor and I just have this freedom of mobility. Those are kind of triggers that I might be dreaming. But then the important thing, or I think more important than just the idea of like, oh, it's cool, we're lucid dreaming, neat, but then it is kind of a macrocosm and microcosm of waking up from the dream. And then if we can remember, like, oh man, in the dream, it feels so intense. Like the emotions you experience in the dream state are just so much sadder, so much happier, so much funnier than the awake state. And then when you wake up, you're like, oh, it was just a dream. And then if only I could have that much grace with myself when I'm driving on the freeway, right? And be able to pull myself out of that situation and say, oh, this is a very convincing illusion that we're in, but like I am still feeling rage in this very convincing illusion, so like those are the parts that really kind of spoke to me with the exercise of waking up from the dream, not only in the dream, but then in real life. And then also to Peggy's sentiment earlier of like, imagine what's possible with a group of people. We'd start with just one person being able to be conscious in a dream and maybe approach healing for oneself, or maybe to offer healing to another's higher self in a way that doesn't infringe, that's, for the highest good, to be of service in that space. And then doing it in a group effort in dream time with that bridge to the subconscious. Like, I think these are some really fruitful topics and super inspiring and, just really awesome things that we could be trying and exploring that kind of come with that discipline.
Those are all super fascinating. Really appreciate your sharing that. Would you recommend carrying around a totem object, like a spinning top or a chess piece, so you know if you're dreaming or not?
Whatever works for you. Like if you have a unique thing, go for it. But yeah, let's keep the Inception parallels going.
It's gonna suck if that's not the pop quiz for today. I can tell you that. It's really gonna suck. Peggy, anything to add?
Not a lot. I think what they're alluding to is, of course, the lucid dreaming. And for myself, I recognize myself in my dreams. So I don't necessarily, sometimes I actually, in the dream will say, oh yeah, this is a dream. But oftentimes it's just that I know this is the person that I am in this dream. So, that's for me how where I kind of take my interpretation of it from there. And I'm always one to stay in the idea that, look, love is the bottom line here, So keeping in that fashion in my dream state is really important to me.
For sure. Yeah, appreciate your sharing that. And I really am grateful that we've got the three of you on this panel today, because I think all three of you have done way more dream work than I have. So I have learned a lot already from our conversations. Todd, did you have anything to add to anything on this passage or anything that's been said?
Oh, well, just something tiny maybe. But from this paragraph, I only think that I can say about determine if something is kind of angelic or not, or whether it comes from another source or is a kind, for me at least, a division. I believe that essentially you take the information and there are different gateways, so to speak, and those gateways help you to, some just to choose. And it's not that they are choose for you, because you are the one who navigate them, you are the one who are taking the decision to go through it. So yes, of course, we mentioned that before, setting an intention I think is very important, but on the other hand is resting is also very important. So it's essential that it not becomes like that, you don't become obsessed, that like to push yourself and go to the limit by thinking that you must dream every single night and write everything down and find a new meaning for each day. So yeah, of course, there might be some new meanings in your life, but you don't need to become super obsessed about dreaming or about doing something, because it harm your rest, and I think you are just awake like a big part of your life experience, but you also need to rest. And about finding that balance, I think that regardless or whether you dream or not, what it matters is respecting your boundaries, respecting yourself, and also giving yourself space to understand that those are simply experiences and that there are tools to help you to remember why this experience is happening. So I think rest is, your mind needs rest. So if you put more kind of heaviness and more chargers and more packages into your rest time, you are doing nothing. You are just exacerbating all your catalysts and all your situation, and at the end you can probably end ill. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know we call it dream work, but if it actually feels like work and a job that you have to go to, then it's probably not going to work out really well for you. Appreciate everything that's been shared. Anybody have anything else wanted to share before we change topics?
Yeah, I guess if it's no longer fun, stop doing it. Bottom line, right?
Yeah, I think that could be said for anything in our spiritual
Absolutely.
practices.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Ken?
I wanted to drop in another nugget in response to something Peggy said earlier in recalling dreams, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to like break out of the dream right now to write this down." Even sometimes just one word or one thought can be helpful, even if it's just scribbled, even if it's just like red Christmas tree, and then you wake up and then that's like your tip of the spear to break through that ice layer and get back down into the water.
Good dream hack, for sure. Appreciate it. Well, let's go ahead then and take a look at a couple passages on something we've alluded to already, and that is lucid dreaming. On January 27th, 2009, Quo said, "There are two fairly mechanical details which may aid in your attempts to become conscious within dreaming, or as this instrument would say, to become a lucid dreamer. The first is to become aware that you are asleep and dreaming, and then, without disturbing your dream, to move your hand, your head, or your eye within the dream so that the entity that you are within the dream is connected to your will. This is a delicate matter, for you do not wish to disturb the tenor of the story that is unfolding within your dream. You wish in no way to alter the dream, but only to become aware within the dream and to have control over your body as it appears within the dream. Needless to say, much rehearsal is usually required before this process goes smoothly. The second practice that shall aid you in your lucid dreaming is a matter of record keeping, assuming that you not only wish to be aware within your dream, but that you also wish to work with the material gathered within the dream at a later time. It is helpful to move with as little fuss and ado as possible to the writing instrument and the paper or to the computer. In either case, the idea is to record the experience that you have just had, not editing or choosing what to write, but writing all that you can remember. Once you become useful to this discipline, you shall find that this can be a time-consuming process. Nevertheless, it is a helpful one. Not sure if there's anything we can add here that hasn't been said already, but Peggy, anything come to your mind from this passage that we haven't really spoken to?
I'm just looking at my notes here. I don't think so. I think there was one more little section on that said, one great goal of each of you within this incarnation is to become aware that you are dreaming and to become able to make the dream of incarnation a lucid and conscious dream, one that is in some ways and to some extent a matter of your choice and your control. And my note to myself on that was just that our ability to transcend into this collective unconscious and have it guide us in a conscious way is extremely powerful. And again, it can be used positive or negative. So always really good to express our intention. So we had already kind of mentioned on that. So
indeed. Yeah, I think that's actually the next passage I've got after this one. So that was a good sneak preview for the viewers. Todd, anything to add? Anything on this passage?
I think for me, that's a very controversial topic. Why? Because they are even helper pills that promise you to have lucid dreams. And I have tried them before, and you were mentioned ashwagandha before, Peggy. I think that everything that nature gives you naturally without processing, it helps. But the moment you start to producing and selling things and promising things, and you have to do it in this way, that's very. I'm not really participating in this kind of thing. And there was even, I have tried them before even. And there was a red pill and a blue pill. And you had to take to wake up in the middle of the night to take the red pill after having taken the blue one first, because the red pill will let you have lucid dreams. But, well, not really exactly a way, but to have a lucid dream. And for me, it was the worst experience ever because it was really ruining my rest, my ability to relax. So I think that if you truly want to do it, I strongly recommend doing it when you are not working, when you are possibly on vacation, having a rest, holidays, and when you don't have any kind of responsibilities, because it requires a lot of energy. And I think this is also kind of like a channeling session. You are working with energy there. And in that moment, while your body and your mind are resting, you are actually working in another way somehow, like another density. So again, I think it's super important, as I mentioned before, and we were saying before, to rest and also to let your mind rest, because you are dreaming, you are activating another part of yourself. So I prefer not to say too much about this. I say already a lot, and because I think it's a very delicate topic, and everyone can practice as they wish, but that's the only thing I can say.
I appreciate your sharing that. Makes perfect sense to me. For the viewers who are interested and, like me, had not actually heard of that, the substance you mentioned, ashwagandha, is that like a natural plant herbal thing, or?
It is.
Ashwagandha, Peggy.
Ashwagandha, yeah. It is a natural substance, and really just aids in kind of calming our minds so that we can go into a restful sleep. And then, of course, that restful sleep is what then promotes the dreaming, right? And ashwagandha is, I don't believe, one of those things that is intended for lucid dreaming, but more for just promoting rest and developing a dream state. Because some people really don't or they don't have any remembrance of their dreams. So, and don't necessarily go into those deep rapid eye movement times during the night. And they're always in this kind of superficial sleeping space. So getting into a more deep space is really so beneficial to our our bodies and for healing. So
Makes sense.
That's what I've experienced with ashwagandha. I don't use any substances regularly, but other than I do, but for other purposes, I use some melatonin. So
For viewers who want to look it up, how do you spell it?
it's ashwagandha, WANGANDA, something like that.
I think there's an
Close
HA.
enough.
Yeah, close enough. I'll get the bottle actually.
Ken, anything to add?
Yeah, there were two things that came to mind. The first was at the end when they say to remember everything, don't just pick and choose, because there might be parts of your dream that were like embarrassing, and we feel, especially in the dream, it's like more embarrassing, and maybe we don't want to write that down, but it's important, especially if it has this really strong emotional connection to it. So, including everything, not just cherry picking. And then the idea of we're not like deconstructing or derailing the dream and going somewhere else with it. And this idea of that you are just delicately participating and becoming aware. This was a new idea to me, because when I first would try this and I realized I was lucid, I would try so hard to fly. And it started as small jumps, right? I would jump a little bit and come down, jump a little bit higher, and then I would come down. And then it just turned into fighting gravity, instead of just, where do I want to go? I would like to go to the top of that building. And then you kind of go towards that building because your intent and your will is going there. But for a long time, it was just such a struggle. And I would just wake myself right up out of the dream because I'm like trying to force this flying thing when I know I'm dreaming, instead of allowing the will to take over and assist.
It reminds me of a book called The Lathe of Heaven. Has anybody read that by Ursula Le Guin? Great science fiction writer. I think she's known for writing the Earthsea trilogy and lots of other classic science fiction canon. Lathe of Heaven is actually a fairly short paperback book about a guy who has to see a psychiatrist because he's afraid to go to sleep because he's convinced that his dreams are changing reality. And over the course of this story, the psychiatrist realizes that his dreams are in fact changing reality. So he starts planting suggestions in him to try to create, with good intentions, a more utopian world. But probably the main theory of the book is don't fuck with dreams and don't try to control your dreams, because it doesn't really work out well when you try to do that. He plants a suggestion like to try to end all racism on Earth, and wakes up the next day and everybody is like gray colored. So that's sort of technically solve the problem, but yeah, not the way intended. Peggy, did you have that thing wanted to share with viewers?
Yes. Let's see. Can I get it on here? There we go. Ashwagandha. So it's ASHWAGANDHA. And again, natural substance, very few side effects, and can really help just in, I mean, they tout it as a relax, nourishing adaptogen for calm and balanced energy. So just
so if that has worked for you, you want to share the brand in case someone wants to get the same brand?
This brand is Banyan Botanicals. I like them because they don't have a lot of crap in the capsules. I'm always one to try to keep it as clean as possible. So
well done.
Yeah.
There you go, viewers. Have at it.
And that's the thing. The thing is, and yeah, don't fuck with your dreams too much. Just let them happen. Let them be, because they are changing our personal reality, right? I mean, they are helping us to move through, and to develop our spiritual growth. And they're trying to do that. And even though it has some pain and discomfort, the intent is to help us. The intent is to help move us onto a more clear path, onto a more spiritual path. So yeah, I'm all for, I think the lucid dreaming is interesting, but it's not something that I'd rather just sit with looking at my dreams and interpreting versus trying to figure out how I can be more lucid in them. So just my thought on it.
Every soul is unique. Every spiritual journey is unique, for sure.
Absolutely.
Anybody have anything to add on this passage before we look at a second one?
I just wanted to say, like, even if you want to try something, like, really, it has been working for so many years. Chamomile, like, like it's so simple.
Yeah.
And if you really want to start with the basics, first try without nothing. Then you can go to chamomile. Chamomile is very gentle and it's even for babies. It's like it's super safe. And if you really want to do the whole thing, go and find the seeds of chamomile, plant it at your home, and give them all the love and put all the purpose in the plant, and say like, "Hey, dear, we are going to work together," and that might help. Like sometimes you think that you have to try the harder way, the harder path, like the really high experience to get the experience. But why you don't try with yourself gentle? Why you don't love yourself gentle? Why you have to go to the hard experience? I believe this experience is already very hard. It's very rough. It's very cruel sometimes. So go with the easy flow. Like all of the other things are going to put you in different situations. So if you just want to do best and good things for you, you don't have to go to the rough part.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Let's take a look at another passage. This is a shorter one, and this is from September 2nd, 2001. Quo said, "One great goal of each of you within this incarnation is to become aware that you are dreaming and to become able to make the dream of incarnation a lucid and a conscious dream, one that is, in some ways, and to some extent, a matter of your choices and your control." I really love the suggestion here that, our incarnation is already a dream. So if you can be awake within the dream of being awake in incarnation, in a way, that is lucid dreaming. And I think it's a beautiful, true thing. I don't think that's like a metaphor. I think it's literally true. What we perceive of as our incarnation really is a dream of our spirit self dreaming that we have this physical third density body. I was reading some channelings from the Council of Nine recently, and I think one of the members of the council said it's kind of like wire and it's like electricity in a copper wire, and it's like the wire becoming hypnotized to believe that it's actually the wire and starts focusing on the kind of material the wire is made of and the thickness of the wire and the shape of the wire, and forgetting that it's not about the wire, it's about the electricity. So we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, as it were. Tut, any thoughts on this passage?
I think like wanting to be dreaming all the time is something like, yeah, of course we want to be aware, and I don't think that's I think like that's not really realistic to dreaming all the time. And yes, we have multiple realities, but the reality is that we are living in this one in the podcast right now, like we are here, we experience, we are feeling, we are having flesh, we are having bones, we are having that here now. So it's simply about being conscious of what we choose in this moment, instead of drifting through different existential planes, because that can, in a way or another, I think that can even create more confusion. And like if you come to Earth as being a terrestrial being, like as a human, and like just to live this reality, of course there are tools to move through different planes, but I think that can turn into escapism, like spiritual escapism, like I do not accept my reality, so I will go dreaming, I will go lucid dreaming, I will go doing this, and then you are doing nothing. Then you come again to Earth and you are like, I'm lost, what I'm doing. So of course there are multiple realities, but at the end is your choice, the one it counts. and whatever choice you take is the perfect one. There is not wrong choices.
Yeah, that is a really important thing to highlight. That has been said many times in channeling sessions. There are no such thing as mistakes. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you choose the right fork or the left fork on the path. The lessons that you came here to learn, you'll find those on whatever path you take. And I think that's really important. Ken, anything to add?
I don't think I can say anything more beautifully than Kuo did right there. It's a wonderful analogy.
Indeed. Peggy?
No, I just think, yeah, we're collectively, we are all here together walking this path, and we can do that in a conscious way, and our choices matter. So be conscious.
Indeed. Beautiful thoughts. Well, that does actually bring us to our last two passages, and that is on dreams and reality. On December 13th, 1981, the entity known as Le Tui, 1/3 of the Quo group entity, said, "We might say in this regard that those activities which are called dreams by your people might, in one respect, be looked upon as being more, shall we say, real than that activity which occurs during waking hours. For within the dream state, the mind is more freed from the limitations of your third density physical illusion, and may pursue those lessons of the mind-body-spirit complex which the entity has incarnated to learn with more fluidity, with a greater freedom, with a perception of that which is limitless, and might more efficiently learn those lessons which have been programmed before this incarnation." I love that passage. I mean, it just seems to say in very simple terms something that we probably wouldn't really accept, which is that they're saying in many ways your dreams are more real than your waking life because you're less encumbered by the limitations of the third density physical illusion and the limitations of your third density, your physical body. I just think that's super cool. Ken, any thoughts on this?
It's just really inspiring, and it makes me grateful for what a gift. Just this simple act that by nature just refreshes us and keeps us sane, but also gives us this wonderful opportunity. It's just, yeah, it's just great to kind of, let me see, I had within the dream. Yeah, with more fluidity, and there's just this gratitude for even being able to participate in a system that offers something like that. Just simple gratitude.
Another thing that really cannot be emphasized enough, that has been talked about so much in so many different channeling sessions, the importance of that attitude of gratitude towards whatever one is doing in their waking or non-waking state. Peggy, anything to add?
I just think that it's important, if you're feeling kind of spiritually stagnated, that dreams are a way to help push us forward, to get us out of that mode of thinking that this body that I walk in, this place that I walk in, that this is the only reality. That no, there is so much more. So by really paying attention to our dreams and interpreting them, we're not stuck, and we're actually pushing ourselves forward. We're not fooling ourselves. We're actually pushing ourselves into a more spiritual state. So, I mean, that's what this passage speaks to me.
For sure. And I think it would be fair to say that most people have a very materialistic view of the universe. And I don't mean they're just obsessed with shopping and buying crap. I just mean that they just kind of take it as a given that what they perceive as the material world, that's like the ultimate reality, and everything else is kind of an illusion. Whereas I think physicists, quantum physicists, would agree that it's the other way around. What we perceive as material reality is in fact an illusion. And if you cut things into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces down to the subatomic level, eventually you just get energy, because that's what Einstein said when he said E equals mc squared. He's saying basically the universe is energy, that matter is just basically reducible to energy, and that quantum physicists have said that the universe is really more like a thought than a machine. And we tend to think of it in terms of mechanical terms and gears and stuff like that. And they're saying when you get down to it, the universe really is more like a thought. And we are dancing thoughts in a ballroom that has material. I just think it's a beautiful overlap there between the law of one and quantum physics. Todd, anything to add?
I think just for Dan, I think regardless of whether you dream or not, what matters is that you respect yourself, that you give yourself space and understand that those are simply experiences. And remember that always that you are unique and perfect, and that's as you are, you give yourself the chance to live the role. You are here today. If it is Peggy, there is one Peggy here, and in this reality, and also same for Ken, who choose to be Ken with this form, and for you as well, Jonathan, to play this role, to be the host today here and to have guests today here. So I think more or less, embody your role and take responsibility for it, because you are the only one who can live it. No one else, not your mom, not your husband, not your girlfriend, not your kids. No one can play your role. You are the only one who can live it, and you are the only one who can choose to be what you want to be. And it's perfect. It's beautiful. And it's full of magic. So we tend to forget that, and we tend to put always our energy into the others. It's because mom said it. Like my girlfriend said it. I'm doing this because of my kids. No, come on, be honest with yourself. You are doing this because you choose to be on that role. So, be respectful and live your life.
Well said. Yeah, I think it reminds me, earlier Ken said something about how hard we are on ourselves and how difficult it is oftentimes for us to give ourselves some grace for our perceived flaws. And as you said, the entity known as Quo has said so many times that you are perfect as you are, including with your flaws, perceived flaws. And it's a beautiful teaching. Mr. Rogers said it all the time. I didn't believe it when he said it either. But apparently it's inspired metaphysics.
Hey, Fred was right.
Beautiful Wanderer. What a beautiful
spirit. Gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
Totally.
Anybody have anything to add on this before we look at our last passage for today? That's good. Before we go, I did want to note for folks who are interested in the quantum physics references earlier, we did a podcast episode on quantum physics, and we mentioned Carl Jung a few times already, since he did a lot of work with dreams. And what a lot of folks might not know is Carl Jung had a years-long friendship with Wolfgang Pauli, who was a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. And they worked on interpreting dreams together and came to a great respect and understanding of the overlap in psychology and quantum physics. So if you want to learn more about that, check out that episode. Otherwise, on February 11th, 1996, Quo said, "We can assure each that the world scene offers a story that has its most helpful points fairly well hidden in the folds of many and various details. It is almost impossible to dwell within the dream and know what lies beyond that dream. This is your situation at this time. This is not a situation we encourage you to escape. This is your appropriate position, not to know or to understand why destiny has offered this lesson or that, but rather to gaze at that moment that is the present, and to look with complete attention at the wonder, the depth, the infinity of that moment. Love lies within each and every moment of this infinite creation. If the seeking soul can keep its eyes upon that love, if the fainting heart and overtired brain can remember that love, then the work which will encourage seniority is being done to the best of your capacity. We encourage each to love, respect, and enjoy the dream life that is the incarnation in the shadow world of earthly life, yet not to expect it necessarily to make sense. We suggest that each not be fooled by what the worldview may think in terms of the station that you hold in life or what is actually going on. We encourage instead that living desire to seek, to love, to serve, taste the keenness of hope, rest in the fullness of faith, and keep the eyes upon the goal, and that goal is the realization of love. I really appreciate how they encourage us not to be discouraged if the world doesn't make sense, because, yeah, for sure. I have said many times, one of the things that I appreciate most about the Law of One is it provides a lens to look at the world to help it make sense. Because otherwise, I would have a really fucking hard time trying to make sense of what's going on in the world these days. But being able to look at it through the lens of the Law of One, I can say it does make a lot more sense. And it allows me to find that inner peace when outer peace is a whole lot harder to find. Peggy, any thoughts on anything here?
Gosh, I don't think I could say anything that is better than what has been written here. I think for me, again, this falls into that belief, that core belief I have of trust and surrender, and that love is really the only answer. So, and if I can use my dreams to keep myself on that path, that seems like a wonderful way to utilize that dream state for me. So, and you had mentioned Jung, and he did a lot of dream work. I've been in doing this, I purchased a book by Robert Johnson, who is a Jungian analyst, and it's called Inner Work, Using Dreams and Active Imagination for Personal Growth. And it's been really, it's a good book. I'm not all the way through it, but have been utilizing it to try to do a little more analysis with my dreams. So thank you for this. This has been a blessing to me in many, many ways.
The blessing has been ours to have you on. Thank you so much for sharing. Todd, any thoughts on anything here?
Just remind myself sometimes when things tend to be kind of clutter. This song, I don't know who sing it.
Can you speak a little louder, Todd? I think I'm having a hard time picking it up.
Yeah, now better?
There we go.
Difficult? I was just saying, like, I tend to sing this song, like, I will try to sing it, and then you might know who is this song, because I'm not good with names. And it says, like, I just call to say
Stevie
I
Wonder.
love you.
Wonder,
it's
yeah.
so awesome.
He's a hero of mine.
So that's what I just sing to myself. I just call to say I love you. And I think that's, Peggy said, here is written. I think we repeat that several times. It seems like a kind of a cliche, but the cliche is the truth.
So beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's a beautiful song. I have not thought of it or heard it in a long time, but it's a beautiful one, making me remember. Ken, anything to add?
Just to carry on this analogy of, waking up from a dream and tying it to our topic of dreaming, there have been times where, like, one can have a dream within a dream, and then you wake up from that and you kind of have, like the Russian dolls keep going, which I think in and of itself is an exercise to explore, oh, well, what if it can happen here, then it's not so far-fetched to assume that it could be happening in this experience that I am 100% sure is the real truth, when I felt that way 2 times ago and woke up twice. And both of those were just dreams, right? And then also adding to that is kind of related. Occasionally my point of view within a dream will change. Sometimes it's third person. Sometimes I'm like watching myself as a character. Sometimes it's first person, where I'm like participating. And it's taking kind of this same analogy of like, oh, just a literal change of perspective. It's called a point of, perspective. So just literally changing that, and then your whole experience subsequently follows suit. And whether it's being removed from, not in a sense of escapism, but like being able to see it and accept it more easily, or if you maybe it's putting up a mirror for you, showing how you were so agitated in that moment at this asshole who cut me off on the freeway, where I am not seeing the creator in that moment. And then it is that flare up that sparks in the moment where I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm a jerk. So is he, but so am I. And let me deal with that. But in the end, this idea of like, yes, even in that situation, there's love there. And giving yourself grace when you fall short of doing that.
For sure. Yeah, beautifully said. And as you were speaking, I was reminded of that part in the first paragraph where they talk about the present moment. It said, gaze at that moment that is the present, to look with complete attention at the wonder, the depth, the infinity of that moment. Love lies within each and every moment within this creation. If the seeking soul can keep its eyes upon that love, if the fainting heart and the overtired brain can remember that love, then the work which will encourage seniority is being done to the best of your capacity. Beautiful passages, and it's a reminder, the present moment is something that has been talked about a lot in channeling sessions over the years as a very magical, mystical part of the spiritual seeking, and so much so that we did a podcast episode on it, so check it out if you want to see some beautiful passages on that. And we did an episode on seniority of vibration, because all this stuff about working with dreams and working with your energy centers and working with the present moment is all about, or it can be helpful in developing your seniority of vibration, helping you advance, grow further, which can help you in future incarnations after this one, because there are many more to come. So let's wrap things up here. Where do we go from here? What are some takeaway lessons we might have from our 2.5-hour conversation together? I have 6 to put out for your consideration. 1, if you can remember that dreaming is communication between space-time and time-space, that's pretty cool. If you can remember that dreaming and work in consciousness involve working with your energy centers, super important and helpful. If you can remember that you have to be serious in intent about working with dreams if you really want to get results. And keeping materials by your bedside to write or record dreams would be a super important part of that. And that dreams are in some ways more real than reality. And that in many ways, our physical incarnation is a dream. Make it lucid, make it conscious. Just some things to consider. Panelists, Tot, any takeaway lessons of your own you'd like to share? Or any final thoughts on this?
Be gentle with yourself.
Super important, for sure. Ken, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just the takeaways, like I guess key takeaways for interpretation. There was one thing that some of us may have heard that we didn't talk about earlier, is looking at the dream through the exercise of experiencing and assuming that everything in it is an aspect of you. And so that, like a lot of times we see like a perpetrator or we are afraid of something, but even looking at the dream is like, how could that be me? When do I do that? Or how do I feel if that was me? Do I see an aspect of myself? And, again, it'd be different for everybody, but see what resonates with you when you do that exercise. It's another form of interpretation that we didn't really explore. And then a reminder of the one that we did is like the first question I always have is, what was the feeling? That's like the key thing. If you can remember your dream, cool. And then what was the feeling? And then also just this inspiration and wonder of getting a sneak peek into time space seems like such a gem, and it's so fascinating that when it happens, it's like and it's so elusive to the waking mind that it just keeps this mystery. And I think it's this beautiful song and dance and push and pull of wanting to see more of that and like experience more of that. And it's such a refreshing, like you get to go back to the well, so to speak, kind of away from the 3D experience and kind of bathe in that for a little bit before you wake up.
So beautiful. It has been such a joy hanging out with you and learning so much from you. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I appreciate the reminder about the emotions. So much of this really is more about our emotions than our thoughts, more about our heart than our mind, and opening up our green ray and working with emotions. Much appreciate that. Anything to add, Peggy?
The only thing for me would be intention. Intention's important. So be conscious of what your intention is as you go to sleep each night, as you wake up in the morning, and as you look at your dreams. Keep it with love and light. And I'm with you, Ken. I'm paying more attention to those emotions. That's my takeaway from this. I'm writing those down first thing.
Nice. Well, thank you all so much. Did want to let our viewers know that if you enjoyed watching this episode, you might want to check out our episode on chakras and energy centers to learn more about that. Space-time, time-space, work in consciousness, quantum physics, the present moment, seniority of vibration. And with that, we have our pop quiz. I guess you don't have to be a genius to figure out what our pop quiz is today, because we've talked about it quite a bit already, and it's one of the best movies about dream work, and that is, of course, Inception. Panelists, have you guys all seen this movie?
Don't think I have.
Have not. Have you seen it,
Good
Todd?
one.
Have you seen it, Todd?
Yes, but I do not remember because it had guns and I don't like guns. So, but I remember I have seen it and I was like, that's just my violence and bleh. So, but a lot of boys love them.
It was dream violence, though. It's not real violence.
Case in point, Ken, I assume you have seen this movie at least once.
Yeah, I think I have only seen it once. It's been a while, but it's one of those ones that like really stuck,
Yeah. Yeah. Great movie. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. He's made so many great movies, and this is one of the best and one of the harder ones to understand, along with Interstellar and such. But yeah, great movie about, for folks who have not seen it, it's about a group of individuals who work as like spies. They work together to go into the dreams of people and either steal ideas from them, or in this case, to plant an idea in somebody else's mind. So it's all about dreams within dreams and what's dream and what's reality and so on. So I got a few questions for you on this one. See how many you can answer correctly. Panelists, go ahead, say your answers out loud so viewers can hear. And viewer, go ahead, say your answers out loud. We can hear you through time, space. And as always, the points don't matter. If you learn something fun, you won. First question. Ken Watanabe, who played the character named Saito in Inception, also had a prominent role in which movie? Batman Begins, The Last Samurai, Godzilla, or Unforgiven?
I haven't seen enough of those to know. I'm going to guess and say The Last Samurai.
That was going to be my guess too.
Nice. Tot, any wild guesses?
Godzilla, I will say, because just a letter.
Nice. The correct answer is all the above. I forgot to mention, if you're not familiar with pop quizzes, could be any combination of the above or all the above or none of the above. They're all trick questions. But yeah, apparently, yeah, he was in Batman Begins. He was a great character in there. He was the titular character of The Last Samurai, a great movie that happened to have Tom Cruise in it also. And he was in Godzilla, and he was in Unforgiven, but he was not in the Clint Eastwood Unforgiven. He was in the Japanese remake of Unforgiven, which was called Unforgiven, and it had samurai swords instead of guns. But I haven't seen it, but I watched the trailer for it, and yeah, it is exactly a remake of Clint Eastwood's Western Unforgiven, but with samurai swords instead. Check it out. Second question. How about this one? Which Inception cast star did not have to audition for the part? Was it A, Michael Caine, B, Elliot Page, C, Marion Cotillard, or D, Cillian Murphy?
I'd say Michael Caine,
I mean,
just because
that's
he's old.
that's what I would say, but I'm thinking Jonathan put this in here to trick us. But that was going to be my question. I was like,
True
this
too.
is probably. Could you read the choices again besides Michael Caine? It was Cillian Murphy and who?
Elliot Page or Marion Cotillard?
I don't know those two names by looking. I'll say Cillian Murphy just to go against my first instinct.
Nice. Don't overthink it, Ken. What do you think, Todd? Any wild guesses?
Marion Cotillard? Marion, maybe?
Well, you are right. Michael Caine has been in a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, as has Cillian Murphy and Marion Cotillard. But the true answer is actually Elliot Page.
Oh my God.
Apparently, at that time, Elliot Page identified as Ellen Page, and he had met with a director just for a sit-down meeting that had nothing to do with Inception, but I guess must have made a really great connection because Nolan apparently sent the script to Page to look at. He expressed interest in and got the part without having to audition.
I think the bigger takeaway is that Christopher Nolan made Michael Caine audition.
Yeah. That is kind of funny. He might not have, actually, for that matter. It seems like he has been in pretty much every Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah. For viewers who didn't know, Elliot Page did get an Academy Award nomination for his role in the movie Juno in 2007, when at that time he was known as Ellen Page and was treated as female. In 2020, Page came out as transgender and non-binary, now identifying as Elliot, and is regarded as an inspiring figure for the LGBTQ plus community, encouraging others to be true to who they are on the deepest level, in spite of perhaps overwhelming opposition from society. Great Law of One connection, for sure. And yeah, in reading a little bit more about Page, realized, wow, it has been a very difficult journey for them and had to go through a lot. They realized at a very young age that they were not female. So being made to play female roles and being encouraged to stay in that role was very challenging emotionally for them. Ready for another question? How about this one? How much time did Christopher Nolan spend researching dreams before making Inception? Was it A, little to none, B, weeks, C, months, or D, years?
Weeks.
Like it has to be years, right? Because otherwise he just seems like he's not doing enough research. If like months, if it's just months or you know what I mean? I'm gonna say years.
I'm going with little to none. I don't know.
You know what?
Are you just trying to be contrarian?
I am.
Nice. What do you think, Todd?
Portion of my nature, so.
Maybe he already knew everything, so he didn't have to research it.
Right. He came from the unconscious, so he didn't have to research.
Yeah, that's just
Connected.
I think weeks, I think the research, you cannot really do much research on dream because you are the one who interpreted them. So maybe he got the whole idea in one dream, like now it's time to put it out. Maybe.
Nice.
These are deceptively difficult questions, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, this is your first time on the podcast, my friend. You'll get used to it after a while. I don't give a shit if people get the answers right. In fact, I'm kind of pissed if people get more than one of these right. So they are intended to be trick questions. And you would think, I mean, he has such an attention to detail in his movies, and they're so overwhelmingly complex. I would have assumed that he spent years researching dreams too, but apparently little to none. I'm quoting him on this. I'm reading a quote. He says, I think a lot of what I find you want to do with research is just confirming things you want to do. If the research contradicts what you want to do, you tend to go ahead and do it anyway. So at a certain point, I realized that if you're trying to reach an audience, being as subjective as possible and really trying to write from something genuine is the way to go. Really, it's mostly from my own process and my own experiences. It's
Stick to what you know.
It's what you know. Yeah, go figure. One more question, and that is, was the ending scene real or was it a dream? For those who have not seen the movie, the spinning top was something that the character of Leonardo DiCaprio used to tell if he was dreaming or not. Because the whole movie is about going into deeper and deeper and deeper levels of dreams until it's easy to forget what's dream and what's reality. So he had a top that he would spin, and if it stayed spinning forever, he knew he was dreaming. If it fell over like tops normally do, then he knew it was in reality. And the movie is famous for leaving the ending a little bit ambiguous because he's spinning a top when he gets to see his kids again, but the screen cuts to black before you get to see if the top actually like falls or not. So what do you think? Was that ending scene real or was it a dream?
Dream.
I'm saying real.
Nice.
I'm saying real. Like you have to have a counterbalance for this exploration into the subconscious and like a payoff for the viewer. And by cutting it, give the viewer the chance to prove that point of like, oh, it could be either way and experience that decision. But I think ultimately you have to have like a grounding, foil to grab onto. But that's just my interpretation.
Well, and that's why you're not an Academy Award winning movie director as Christopher Nolan is. But you are correct, I think. He did, if you've seen the movie, or if you remember the movie, this top is spinning, and then it just gives a little bit of a wobble at the end, suggesting that it's going to fall. But it cuts to black right after that. Because Nolan did say he deliberately left it ambiguous because he wanted it to be ambiguous to viewers. But upon researching this, I learned that Michael Caine said in an interview that Christopher Nolan told him specifically that any scene that Michael Caine was in was reality, and Michael Caine is in that final scene. And for folks who look even closer, apparently in dream sequences, the Leonardo DiCaprio is wearing a wedding ring. And when the scenes are in reality, he's not wearing the wedding ring because his wife died. That's part of the story. So apparently in the final scene, when he wakes up on the plane, the camera does actually show him wearing a wedding ring. And when he goes back to meet his kids at the end, you can see that he is not wearing the ring when he sees his kids either. So I'm sorry, what I meant to say, he's not wearing the ring when he wakes up on the plane. He's not wearing the ring when he sees his kids. So that is indicating that it is reality. So viewers, if you did not learn anything else useful from this podcast episode today, you learned something really important about a cool movie in pop culture.
You're going to have to go back and put a spoiler alert before the quiz so that if, because this is, you don't want to spoil this one for folks. It's a good movie.
It came out a long time ago. I'm thinking the statute of limitations on spoilers expired.
You're right. You're right.
It's a great movie, though. Yeah. You guys have any other last thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, but thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's a pleasure and a joy. Panelists, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To you who are watching this on video at some time in the near or very distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai, namaste. Say goodbye, Pam.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
See you, Kat. Good to see you, Ken.
Good to see you.